switch on the slide. Today we will try to understand certain best practices in teaching and learning in higher education institutions. Normally we start with understanding the concept of teaching and learning. Teaching is the greatest act of optimism, says Colin Wilcox. Now, other learned person says teaching is more than imparting knowledge, it is inspiring change, while learning is more than absorbing facts, it is acquiring understanding. One of the famous poets, Robert Frost, says, I'm not a teacher, but an awakener. Let us try to understand. All this while, the world around us is talking about the best practices required in teaching and learning to have a successful student emerging out of the portals of great institutions. Let us try to understand why we need such best practices in teaching and learning. All of us will agree in this era of rapid technological advancements and evolving student demographics, it is very crucial for higher education institutions to adopt best practices in teaching and learning to prepare the students for success in the 21st century workforce. When we try to implement an effective pedagogical approach, utilizing technologically, strategically, and fostering a supportive learning environment, institutions can enhance student engagement, improve learning outcomes, and promote lifelong learning. Here are a few reasons why higher education institutions have to adopt best practices in teaching and learning. When we try to talk about enhanced student engagement, we try to engage students in the learning process, transforming passive lecture into interactive experiences, and also incorporating active learning techniques such as group projects, simulations, and case studies. Students are encouraged thereby to take ownership of their learning, fostering deeper understanding and retention of knowledge. The other need why we need to have a best practices improve learning outcomes. See, implementing these best practices always have a positive impact on student learning. Researchers have shown a significant contribution, saying that effective teaching methods such as student-centered learning, collaborative learning leads to improved academic performance and higher critical thinking skills and enhanced problem-solving abilities. All of us know we need to prepare our students to be employable. These best practices, what we adopt in higher educational institutions, will definitely make students to cater to the demands of the modern workforce. This emphasizes critical thinking, communication, and collaboration skills. Institutions equip students with the competencies needed to succeed in rapidly changing and increasingly interconnected world. Promoting lifelong learning is one basic need. Why we need to have the best practices inculcated? Because as we are teachers and we need to have a lifelong learning, it is essential for us and inculcate that culture, foster that culture in the minds of students. As an individual, one has to thrive in an ever evolving world. Such best practices, what we are going to see over the period of time, will definitely encourage students to become self-directed learners, capable of adapting to new challenges and also pursuing knowledge throughout their lives. There are a lot of requirements or maybe reasons why we need the best practice, but still we try to retain the very few informations like attracting and retaining talented faculty. Today, that is something which is very challenging for all higher educational institutions because you need to retain talented faculty because they are the contributors for the overall development of the institution. So institutions have to prioritize on this aspect. Talented educators have to be kept in a very comfortable position so that now they try to create an environment where values, innovation, collaboration, and continuous improvement happens. Let us try to understand a simple teaching learning model. It is a combination of input, teaching learning process, and then output. When we try to input or provide some inputs, how this teaching learning model comes out successfully in the form of catering to different areas. What are the inputs we have in a teaching learning model is students with diverse backgrounds, different learning styles, and different needs. All students do not have a common requirement. That is one input. Now, other input, what we could understand is faculty with different levels of experience and expertise. The major input, what we need to provide is the resources, including the technology, library, and the learning spaces. If this is given as an input with the help of a teaching learning process, collaborative learning environment, where students can work together in groups on projects, discussions, and problem solving activities. Students can take ownership of the learning process through self directed inquiry, problem solving, and critical thinking. Technology can be used to enhance engagement, providing access to diverse learning resources and facilitate communication and collaboration. Trying to help students understand the learning objective, expectations, assessment criteria, which can be communicated with a regular and constructive feedback for students to track their progress and enhance their understanding. Regular interaction between student and faculty. Students are encouraged to reflect on the learning process, to identify their strengths and weakness, set learning goals. All these things with professional development of faculty to enhance their teaching skills, to stay updated on the current pedagogical practice, incorporating new techniques. All those things as a process will give us a very good output. The output what we receive is students become actively engaged in their learning. They become critical thinkers and problem solvers over a period of time. Faculty become skilled teachers, lifelong learners, and leaders in their own field as they become expertise. And as far as the institution is concerned, they are known for their innovative teaching and learning practices and the commitment to student success. So when we give an input and a teaching learning process, the output seems to be very important, very crucial, and very much widely appreciated because this is what is the best practice an institution has to adopt. Now, if you look out, basically, teaching is a set of principles, beliefs, or ideas about a nature of learning, which is translated into classroom. It's always said as teaching is a complex, multifaceted activity, often requiring instructors to juggle multiple tasks and goals simultaneously and flexibly. There are certain set of principles which teaching has to adopt to make the conditions and the support the student gets to have a conducive environment. If you look out, this slide tells you about teacher-centered and learner-centered facilities. If it is a teacher-centered facility, It is going to be dominated by the teacher, banking approach where the teacher tries to help the students understand, and it is a disciplinal approach and an individualistic contribution, indirect and guided methodology. While if it is going to be learner centered, there's a lot of room for discussion, interaction between the teacher and the student. The student tries to become a constructionist wherein the teacher is able to give concrete ideas to the student to build upon. It becomes a mutual win-win situation where it becomes an integrated process and a collaborated activity, and the student directly focuses on the learning goal. To just throw some glimpse on certain principles of teaching. The teaching principles are based on previous knowledge, providing information to individual based on their need. Teachers are ready to comprehend and provide information, to teach with meaningfulness, to define specific objectives of a lesson, try to help the student to understand from simple to complex information, proceeding from concrete to abstract, trying to make them think out of box, proceeding from general to a specific area of concept, proceeding from known to unknown, thereby inculcating the curiosity in the student's mind. Effective teaching involves acquiring relevant knowledge about students and using that knowledge to inform a suitability of classroom teaching. Effective teaching basically involves three major components of learning: learning objectives, assessments, and instructional activities. This effective teaching principle involves articulating of explicit expectations regarding learning objectives and policies. So this is a teaching process one has to adopt, one has to carefully plan out and try to understand. As teachers, all of us want to give the best possible information or material or input to the students. All of us have got a prior plan how to implement a particular course of action. The basic need for a teacher is to plan, to understand the learner's demography, the learner's need, and based on that, the strategies which could be widely appreciated from the student's point of view, and the learning objectives which could be derived and the outcome after a particular session is very important when we start framing or when we start planning what we need to deliver. The moment we implement, we go for a quick review of reflection of thoughts from the student and feedback, so that is there a need for a correction of our activities or the material or the plan what we are going to give. So there is a need for immediate reflection of our ideas to understand, are we giving or are we delivering the best thing what the student requires. The ultimate is about evaluating ourselves from the student's point of view to know whether our strategy has really given a difference for the student, has really proved to be benefitable for the student, by asking a feedback to know what would be the better ways we could improvise ourselves. And this has to be a continuous process for all of us as teachers, because we need to constantly adapt according to the needs of a student and try to provide the best possible resource so that they are getting the complete benefit out of it. And we need to continually do this, reflect it on our teaching, because something is not working when we try something new. The demography profile of the student has changed. And that will definitely enable us to know how and what to change and what to provide as a relevant information. There are, interestingly, studies have come out where a successful teacher is one who is quickly able to adapt to the needs of the students and yet provide the best in the form of content structure, in the form of learning objectives, giving them the best requirement, and getting our priorities managed, providing them effective results. To just give you an idea, these are the phases a teacher normally undergoes. We plan, we implement, and we finally evaluate. So the stage one says reactive stage where we try to fixing up our goals and our content. We try to decide what are all the ways through which, what are all the technological advancements we can use so that the learning becomes easy and interesting. So we try to arrive at a methodology how we are going to deliver in a class. Maybe it is offline or online, or it could be say a talk or whatever it is. We try to connect. How are we going? We get ourselves prepared. Excuse me. How we are going to get it delivered to the student or to the audience in front of us. The second stage is like where we try to understand the learner's demography, the learner's say background, wherein we need to know whether are we prepared in such a way that we are able to cater to the diverse needs of the learners, and we ultimately deliver, we ultimately give our best with what is required, we're satisfying the expectation of the student. And the last phase tells us we try to understand too the feedback and the reflections what we get from students, whether whatever strategies we have used, has it proven to be the best practice? Is it working in a particular classroom environment? Is it engaging the students comfortably? Is it reaching to the satisfaction and the expectations of the student? Thereby, again, we try to modulate and we try from fixing up our goals and content based on the feedback and the reflections what we feel from the student. If you look out, there are there are a lot of effective teaching strategies available. We connect with a lot of people and we try to understand because each day we have a methodology given. So there are a lot of teaching strategies which is coming up as days are like going day by day, and based on the needs of the students, based on the environment. If you look out today, we have a recent news saying that foreign universities are going to set up their branches in India. Imagine we need to compete with such institutions. Only when we give the best, students will be a part of our institution. So there are a lot of strategies which are widely used and like advised. To just quote a few, like visualization, cooperative learning, inquiry-based instruction, differentiation, applied to teaching strategies, use of modern technology in the classroom. We'll see in detail as we go, but still, behavior matters. This is something which is very much essential because today kids are not knowing how to be well mannered. This behavior management strategy is an art because that will claim an atmosphere of mutual respect, reduce disruptive behavior, and ensure students having an equal opportunity to fulfill their potential in the classroom. Very much widely appreciated, and people look forward for this because many of us fail to cater to this strategy. We are not able to make or say try to bring students to that level with a positive and productive learning environment. So this is one thing which is very much essential. As I said, cooperative learning strategy also allows students to share their ideas, to mix with each other, and try to slowly develop the critical thinking skill. Differentiation, I think most of us know because we apply that. It's a specific academic ability based on the learning needs of the students. We don't go in general. This is actually effective based on the learner's level, and we try to understand how complexity they are, and we try to reorient our goal in such a way that it is catered to their needs. These are some five common teaching styles which is widely adopted, which is widely practiced. And I would believe, based on our experience, people in this platform, this hybrid or blended style seems to be more fascinating compared to the earlier and traditional style of authority or lecture style. In that style, teacher was the main person, focus of attention. By providing lengthy lectures, it's a monologue, one-way interaction. This was something that was widely practiced maybe years before. Then there came the concept of demonstrator or a coaching style, where the teacher is able to exhibit the knowledge, trying to bring in a lot of activities and demonstrations so that the student becomes live and attention to the classroom. There's one other style where we try to understand facilitator or activity style. This is something that is widely practiced and popularized in Western countries, where we try to make the student to understand. Teachers play a role of a facilitator rather than a lecturing, trying to provide the confidence in the minds of students, create a sense of self-actualization where the students try to uh, probe and start learning, try to think out of box, try to sharpen the critical thinking skills, try to be creative, try to be innovative, and there the teacher plays the role of facilitator. This delegator or a group style is common when you have some common exercises on the lab wherein we try to help one to one, and we try to create a group environment where students start learning from others. Hybrid or blended style tries to make the teacher and the student interactive, try to probe in the needs of the student, try to understand what is the interest of the student, and then provide so that it becomes a healthy environment, a participative environment, wherein the student is given the due priority and becomes the center of attraction, wherein it disseminates, the information disseminates from both the sides and becomes a room for discussion. Now, how do we decide what is to be done? Normally, the traditional method would consider students as an empty vessel, wherein we try to keep on providing them information as a monologue or as a one-way interaction, bombarding them with so much of concepts and facts and knowledge. That was a period where people were only listening. Today, there is a need to understand whether are we addressing an active or a passive listener. Based on that, we need to change the teaching strategy. Are we going to impart knowledge or provide information? Again, our strategies has to change. Is it going to be an interactive classroom or a chalk and talk method wherein you start delivering it? Or are we going to adopt the latest teaching methodologies which would be required? So all these things determines a unique teaching strategy which all of us have to practice and imbibe. I just wanted to give maybe an understanding of normally the innovative practices or the best practices which today's leading institutions take it forward. Now, the main thrust of what we call as best practice in teaching and learning is embodied in research based education, because this research based education, that approach gives the student a methodology or a process where students learn as researchers with a curriculum largely designed around inquiry based activities. Teachers play the role of a facilitator. They have a division of roles, what each one has to perform between the teacher and the student, facilitate, supervise, and mentor students, and to promote the concept of research for students is something which is widely practiced today across the globe. Problem based learning is again another way of making students to become problem solvers. Everything is coined towards the concept of research. One other best practice is this flipped classroom. Peer assessment of students' work. Students evaluate their peers' activities, or maybe assessment would be done. Reading and discussing draft articles. This is one major best practice. It is widely practiced in Western countries where you try to narrate a case study and then open it for discussion and make it as maybe like people try to understand what is the outcome of this particular article, or what is the different dimensions people could strategically perceive from a particular article. Students go in for micro research. They Students have to be allowed for project seminars, workshops. I believe most of this we are practicing in the best interest of students, because one is that because of the technological advancement. Now, other is competition is prevailing, huge competition is prevailing across institutions in the country. We need to outsmart the other institution, peer institution. Only then we will be able to be successful. We need to devise some strategies which would be different, which will be attractive, which would bring in the students to our institution. So all these things are some sort of activities which has to be done to make the student live, feel live in the class. One such thing could be done through this experiential learning, which engages the learners learn by doing and by reflecting on the experience. There are a lot of experiential activities. Normally, it is on a hands on session or on a lab which is done, but still, experiential learning activities can include lot of sessions. The emerging one is studio performances. All these sessions are well planned, supervised, and assessed through different people who are programmed in such a way that they know the concept of experiential learning. This actually stimulates academic inquiry by promoting interdisciplinary learning, civic engagement, career development, cultural awareness, leadership, and other professional and intellectual skills. So, friends, please understand, as we start delving in the concept of teaching practices, we need to slowly understand that we have to give students this concept of experiential learning to understand the flavor of it, thereby involving them in each and every step. Another way of trying to have the class lively or trying to give the best to the student is about active learning. And now this is possible only when the students are interested. These are some techniques like 1 minute paper, muddiest, clearest. All these are some techniques like no wherein we try to like no maybe it could be an activity wherein we try to understand whether students are actively involved in the learning process. Because normally we are prone to a stage where students are only passive listeners. This active learning concept will definitely involve the students' strong support, because they need to know the concepts, They need to validate the teacher's strategy. Teachers assign encouraging tasks and support students in performing and make them learn how effectively and meaningful these activities are. In active learning, teachers enable students to become active knowledge constructors. New informations are provided and are connected with the help of technology, and sometimes the informations are shared prior to the student. Thereby, the student demonstrates a unique skill, exhibit that unique skill of critical thinking or creativity or brainstorming. It is normally practiced, which helps them in their problem solving skills, which enhances their problem solving skills. Now, another best practice is critical thinking. This may be explained as a careful, goal-oriented, goal-directed thinking, ability to engage in purposeful, self-regulated judgment based on rigorous intellectual concepts and principles. All these things, it allows students to orchestrate and self-regulate their own learning strategies and describes the ability to analyze information objectively, evaluate the information, and come to an informed judgment. Critical thinking is one best practice which plays a special role in the academic learning by providing an opportunity for students to reflect on the nature of knowledge they acquire, inquire into the process of knowing, making connection between the areas of knowledge, becoming aware of their perspectives and those various groups whose knowledgeable share. All these things encourage students to have a deep understanding of the concepts, whatever is dwelled upon inside the classroom. Being beyond an academic value to be very judgmental, critical thinking is very crucial for any democratic society to face challenges and unbeknown at present. These are some of the activities, like we have Oxford style debating, where when we set the classroom activity in such a way that it's an organized model, spider web model, activities that facilitate self-disciplined reasoning, logical thinking abilities. All these things will make them to reach to a stage where they're able to use all this knowledge into a wider set. Self-directed learning is also one best practice. It's a process where students take responsibility for their learning. It's a student-centered learning process. This fosters intrinsic motivation by providing absolute space for student autonomy, opportunity, and experience based on their own competence. This also helps them to have a surface level or a deep level learning. Having the learning objectives transparent, they're able to adopt to the flexible learning environment so that it becomes easy for them to know what is their learning need. They try to devise the learning goal, formulate appropriate learning strategies, monitor and self-evaluate them, and choose the best resources or the methods for learning in order to perform at their best. This is also flexible forms of assessments available today. You have different modes of assessment available in a self-directed learning approach. You get a constructive feedback from the teacher as well as your colleagues, because the outcome is so transparent that there are chances for ideas to pour in, developing a metacognitive competencies as you start self-reflecting through your work, whatever you do. Now, This is one healthy practice which we need to adopt as we march in, as we start going in deeper. Promoting student-student relationships. We call it as a cooperative learning, wherein we try to create this strategy which will encourage or which will motivate a student to interact with his fellow classmate by encouraging and facilitating students' effort to achieve interpersonal and small group skills such as communication, leadership, trust building, decision making, conflict resolution, and group work. This is something that is very vital. And today, students look forward for such sort of association which could be created by the institution to make them successful. This also helps in forming, making them to participate in study groups, which can increase the breadth and depth of a student's learning, giving a structure for productive study time and providing students an opportunity for meaningful learning. Rather than supporting them in the formation of groups, teachers can potentially further benefit the students by integrating a group based approach in the various courses taught by the teachers, implementing all these strategies which focus on the learning of students in groups. Now, before we try to understand what are the benefits, there are few things which we have to have in mind to just maybe like to give a sum up or to maybe to give a importance or a stress on the best practices. As higher education institutions, we need to try to figure out whether are we emphasizing or are we providing a collaborative learning environment wherein students feel a sense of community and engagement. Are we giving a platform for collaborative learning? The second best practice, which we need to try to provide or try to look upon, is student centered learning, wherein students are given or students are the focal point where students take ownership, students are given numerous opportunities, they go with a self directed inquiry, they are able to be critical thinkers. The third best practice which we need to look upon or which we need to see whether we are carefully and consciously implementing is use of technology effectively, because there's a lot of technology available. We need to integrate this technology into the learning process to enhance engagement, student engagement, providing access to diverse learning resources and facilitate judiciously complements with the traditional teaching method. One other best practice which higher education institutions have to see is adopting a variety of teaching approaches. Earlier days, we had the traditional approach of chalk and talk, but today, the need of the hour is a variety is required. Students are not interested in one particular method of teaching. They look out for a lot of varieties a teacher has to provide in competitive, which is suitable for the course, whatever they handle, maybe like case studies or discussions or lecture methods or interactive methods or simulation or role play, hands-on activities to be adopted to see to that the students feel the play of the subject. Also, we need to understand the expectations of the students and collect timely feedback so that we are trying to improvise ourselves. Institutions have to build upon a feedback mechanism which track both the students' progress, teachers' improvisation, identify the room for improvements, identify the need for the technology, what had been missed, ultimately enhancing the knowledge and understanding of the student. All this providing critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, that all comes under the variety of teaching approaches. One other best practice which higher education institutions have to adopt is fostering inclusive and respectful learning. We had already discussed that we need to have a classroom climate that is inclusive and respectful of all students, regardless of their background, belief, or learning style, encouraging open communication, tolerance, and diverse perspectives. Encourage regular student faculty interaction as the unique and best practice. Try to connect the student and the teacher during the hours, during the office hours, after the office hours, in the form of a mail or a WhatsApp or maybe an informal meeting. This will definitely enable the students to be in touch with the teacher, create a bond so that they'll be able to seek guidance, clarify concepts, and receive personalized feedback. Self-reflection and metacognition is something very essential to make the students understand what is their learning process, what is their strength and weakness, so that the students set the learning goal. One such is very much required. As an institution, we should be able to make the student self-aware, know them individual self, what is good and bad, what is their strength and weakness, so that that will make them to understand the learning goals and set them in a right way. Maybe the last or the very important best practice which an institution has to adopt is space or opportunity for professional development. Students don't come basically only for listening or for attending classes. They come or they treat the institution as a place or a platform to gain professional development. So faculties as we are mentors, we have to continuously engage the students, one, by developing them, by turning them to be employable, by trying to create a mark in their career. Now, other way of skilling ourselves, our own self, by constantly getting updated, by regularly reviewing our pedagogical practice and incorporating new teaching techniques in the process of action. Now, we'll try to understand. See, as we are talking about, or as we had seen, what are the best practices or the best methodologies we can provide. It is a win-win situation. It's a triangle. It's a win-win situation where the institution on the top, the student and the teachers on both ends of the triangle down. So it's a win-win situation where the best practices, what is adopted by an institution, will be mutually satisfied, become a satisfaction parameter between the teachers, institution, and the students. So now when we start implementing the best practices in higher education institutions, it offers a multitude of advantage and benefits for students, faculty, as well as the institution as a whole. Now when we try to know what are these, enhanced student engagement and learning outcomes. We try to give them the best, tailor learning experiences for the student, preparing them for the 21st century workforce. We inculcate them in the concept of critical thinking, creativity, innovation. We try to educate them on global perspective and cultural sensitivity. As teachers, we are lifelong learners. We update ourselves. We adapt to any situations. We We try to attend a lot of programs, seminars, and conferences to make us the best version of ourselves in the classroom. And we are number one in getting ourselves adapted to any challenging environment. To just put an emphasis, because this is something which makes an institution grow year after year. This makes the institution like no reach greater heights, get a goodwill in the market. By adopting all whatever we have seen over a period of an hour, the best practices, these are some of the common benefits the institution gains over a period of time. Number one, improve student satisfaction and retention. The best practices which we contribute results in higher student satisfaction, engagement, and retention rates, leading to a stronger alumni network and a positive reputation for the institution. This is one of the best benefits an institution could get. You can build upon a stronger alumni network because students basically, when they are satisfied, they are ready to contribute their maximum to the alma mater. The second benefit, what as an institution would gain is attracting and retaining talented faculty. Those institutions that prioritize best practices are more likely to attract. Of course, I believe all of us here are there with best institutions across the country or across the globe because all of us have that unique practices in our teaching and learning. So as an institution, that's the best example. All of us are retained with because an institution should have or attract high quality faculty members, creating a vibrant academic environment. When we try to adopt the best and novel practices, our reputation gets enhanced so as our credibility. When we implement these best practices, it demonstrates a commitment to quality education, enhancing institutions' reputation and credibility within our own academic community, within our own peer competitors. Competitive advantage in a globalized education landscape. Today, there is a lot of mushrooming of educational institutions as there are number of people who are interested in academic pursuits. This best practice will definitely position our institution in a competitive globalized landscape, attracting students and faculty from around the globe. This best practice will also lead to successful contribution in the field of social and economic progress. When we prepare the students for the 21st century, now that they are the 21st century workforce, all of us and all our institutions directly and indirectly contribute to the social and economic progress because we foster innovation, we promote creativity, we, we transform students to be critical thinkers, thereby driving the societal development. With due respect to all of us here, with all the institutions across the globe and across our country, I just wanted to share some globally recognized higher education institutions that have adopted best practices in teaching and learning. Of course, all of us do, because today that has become the need of the hour and very essential for us to retain our place. But these are some institutes globally renowned, widely renowned, and known for their best practices. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. I believe all of us are aware of this world renowned institution of higher learning, known for its innovative teaching methods and commitment to student centered learning. This institute has pioneered the use of active learning techniques such as problem solving exercises and group projects to engage students and promote deeper understanding of complex concepts. MIT also offers and promotes a wide range of online learning opportunities, including open courseware and MOOCs that provide access to MIT's world-class education to all the learners around the globe. Now, other famous institution is National University of Singapore. It's a leading research university in Asia that has implemented a wide variety of best practices to enhance learning and teaching. This university was a pioneer in adopting flipped classroom model in few courses wherein students wanted to watch lectures online and then use the class for interactive or discussion or hands-on activity. NUS Singapore emphasizes the use of technology to support learning, providing students with access to online resources, interactive simulations, and personalized learning tools. Now, other well-known institute is University of Cambridge, which is a historic university with a long tradition of academic excellence. The university has implemented a wide variety of best practices to ensure that its students receive a high quality education. These practices include small group tutorials where students receive personalized attention from faculty and a focus on research led teaching where faculty bring the latest research findings into the classrooms. One other institute globally recognized is University of Melbourne, again a research university in Australia, has a strong commitment to innovative teaching and learning. This university has implemented a number of initiatives to enhance student engagement in classrooms, including the use of technology, the creation of flexible learning pathways, and the development of learning environment. To quote the last one, I'm sure all of us know many more such institutions, and maybe your own institution would be such institution catering to the best practices and providing the best for the student. This ETH Zurich is a leading science and technology university in Switzerland. It has implemented the best practices to receive a world-class education. They have a strong focus on or emphasis on research, hands-on learning, and a commitment to international collaboration. So with due respect, these are some institutions which gives the students the best education. No doubt, all of us do that. All of us are trying to reach to the particular situation. We are trying to march towards the horizon by providing our students the best quality education by adopting the best practices. Hope all of us would do justice to our profession by catering to the needs of students' diverse learning needs, by adopting the latest technological pedagogy, giving the best concepts, helping them to try to learn and adapt based on their needs, kindling them, motivating them to start doing the concept of self-learning and self-related learning, and ultimately supporting the institution in which we are working to climb up, to rise up to the international standards and offer the best curriculum to the students who are a part of us. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And if there's anything which I could answer in the form of questions, I would love to do. Thank you.